Hello, good morning. It is 8:12 a.m. and it is way too fucking early for me. So, all right, we're good. We're good. So, welcome to the first ever little podcast thing I'm setting up. For now, calling it the Fireside Chat. We have me, tNomad, DM for this wonderful group of adventurers. I have with me a special guest, old friend, Sour Kraut, who also plays Malaggar. How are you doing?
Very good. Yourself?
It's mornings. It's the morning. Wish I had a coffee, but all I got is soda. So, I figure we'll just jump right down into it.
All right.
Interested. You have a very interesting character. I know we've kind of talked in length when you were first making him. Really caught my attention. I love the possibilities that your character brings to the party. If you wouldn't mind, giving us some backstory on him.
All right. Obviously, his name's Malaggar. He's a Drow from the Underdark. And the reason why I picked a Drow was the party that I'm playing with, or we're playing with, are all pretty new players. And so the role-playing aspect is something that they're getting used to. So I thought I could play an intentionally, hard race in order to try to, force, certain circumstances to come up. Such as when we were in the town of Overlook, we had a confrontation with a group of dwarves where they mistakenly found out my identity, and it, or not Overlook, it was in Brindle,
Yep.
in Brindle. And that nearly got us in a fight with the whole town guard, and got us kicked out of town. So
I was definitely on my feet on there. I was scrambling for maps and everything.
So he's a rogue from the Underdark, and as most of you, if you're not familiar with the lore, Drow elves are from, I keep saying the Underdark, but I mean, you think of caves, you think of the deep caves, they're below that. They are completely subterranean, almost never see the light of day.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of that is it's a very hostile culture. They worship the deity Loth, and she demands sacrifices. So very oftentimes, if they do see the light of day, it's when they come to the surface only to grab surface dwellers and bring them back down to be chopped up. It's a cutthroat world that he's from, and that didn't jive with him. He always knew something was wrong. He did just enough to fit in, but one of the times when he went to the surface to try to snag someone, he met a man that changed his life. I forget the guy's name, honestly, off the top of my head.
Yeah, I forget too.
But in talking to him, bringing him back down, it kind of awoken something inside of Malaggar. And after he had dropped him off, ready to serve him up as a lamb for the slaughter, when he went to sleep that night, he changed his mind, snuck into the Loth's worshippers' chambers, broke some of the slaves free, and did his best to get him out of there. Obviously, he was followed almost the whole way. By the time he got to the surface, he had to fight off a whole bunch of spiders. And that's where we met the rest of the party. They happened to be adventuring nearby, heard the fighting, came to investigate, and the rest is history.
Yeah, met your new friends, acquaintances, allies. Still not 100% sure there.
Yeah, I don't think he considers them friends yet. I think if there's anyone that he's closest to, it's been Morn. He's cooperated with Morn probably more than the others. When we were trying to get access to Overlook, handing over the orc scalps to him to offer up as evidence of them existing.
Okay. Like the other outsider almost.
Exactly, yeah.
Gotcha. I didn't pick up on that. That's interesting. Would you say he's paranoid or is he just extremely cautious?
Honestly, I'd say both. Remember, the world he
Okay.
comes from, everyone is out for themselves and will do everything to screw everyone else over if it means a little gain for them. And he's an entirely different world, like one where people will genuinely try to help one another, and it's completely foreign to him. He's still trying to get used to it.
Yeah, like that's got to be trippy. If you come from a cutthroat world like the Drow, and then you come to the surface and like people are actually doing things for each other and they don't have an ulterior motive, that's got to be like just fucking jarring.
Yeah, it was. I mean, Malaggar always knew it was different, but had no experience of it, so he's just doing his best to try to absorb it without getting himself screwed over in the process. Really,
Okay. Okay.
he's a Drow. He knows he's well hated. He knows he can't fit in, but he found a group that was willing to have him tag along anyway, and he's doing his best to make that his new home. Because he's probably still being hunted for by those followers. I mean, they might eventually give up, but you never know.
We will definitely find that out. That actually brings up a good point. So we're running the Scales of War adventure path on the second adventure right now. Like I definitely want to do this campaign because like I read through all the different adventures and everything, and I love the campaign arc and all, and like where it takes you, kind of almost takes you on a tour of D&D, you know. So I'm excited for that. But I also like I don't want to do like strict campaign only what's in the books. So I've been kind of looking for chances to bring in your characters' backstories, you know. I was going to do one for Adokul the other day, but you guys went on a different. You guys kind of took a little bit of a detour.
Maybe like
Whatever.
sidestepped it without
Yeah,
realizing we
yeah,
sidestepped it.
exactly. Like I don't want to force you guys into anything. Like I'm, I'm, I'm trying to work on preparing a bunch of different material. Like in case you guys do this, I have this prepared. In case you guys do this, I'll have this prepared. So we didn't get to that, but yeah, I was gonna do something with Adokul's backstory because he has a knight that used to work under, or he used to be beholden to a king that kind of turned evil or whatever. So then he gave up his knighthood and then he went to a monastery, became a paladin. So that's really interesting, and I kind of wanted to bring that out, but we didn't get to that. But yeah, like backstories, I really want to work your guys' backstories in, but I don't want to say too much.
Right. No, no. Yeah, obviously to me as a player, don't want to
Yeah.
give away too much. But I didn't even know that about Adokul. So that's
Yeah.
just one thing about having new players. It's difficult to have them not live in the moment so much. Try to remember they're playing a rich character. So
Yeah.
it's trying to breathe life into all that. It's a big juggling act,
Hmm.
especially when you're also trying to learn a new system, like a new way of playing D&D too.
Yes. Yes. It's even difficult for me. um. Yeah, and like just if I think if I did that, that would also kind of turn the focus not so much on just combat like we are mostly, and like really get into the story and like get the guys excited about their characters like I know you are and like I like to be. I think making your character and developing your character is probably one of the funnest parts of the game because it's so open ended.
Yeah, you can do literally anything.
Hmm. Literally anything. Even kill off your character intentionally
Yeah.
if you're really up for that. um so tell me a little bit about like your character plans from a player perspective, not so much as Malaggar.
Okay. Well, Malaggar is a rogue, an artful dodger specifically. So his focus is on mobility and doing damage. So going forward, I'm trying to do that as much as possible. And with the rogue, if you're not familiar with how 4E works, uh, rogues have a sneak attack ability that lets you roll some extra dice once per round, And in order to do that, you need to have combat advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the ways I've been building Malaggar so far is to try to get combat advantage every single way I can. And then also, if um, there's no way that I can like outright get it, either using my duelist dagger or with a Drow's special ability, the Darkfire, then I have his mobility to rely on, where I can use acrobatic strike and other options to me to get himself in flanking positions or catch enemies alone. Um, it's very clear that he's not a frontline fighter. You know, I don't have the health pool compared to a Doga. Like
Yep.
even Osiris has more health than I do. But my armor class isn't decent, or sorry, is decent. So that makes me a decent like flanker, like staying on the sides of battle, which again bodes well for me trying to get flanks to get enemies alone. So I'm trying to have him focus on exploiting that. One of the big things I did recently was his daily wasn't working out as well as I thought it would. It was a free attack once I bloodied an enemy, but it didn't stack well with doing the sneak attack. And I realized that he has a really high initiative. So I decided to change it to a different daily ability called Blinding Barrage, where it's like an AoE attack, where I can attack multiple enemies within the vicinity of me. And using his high initiative, I think I can get myself into a position during the start of combat, pop that off, blind a bunch of people, while also still being able to do my sneak attack damage.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely have a plan, and you're following through on it very well, I would say. It's I gotta say, it's a lot of fun planning out these encounters and just having like my plans just die right away.
Hopefully in a good way, right?
Yeah,
Like a good
yeah,
die. Like
yeah.
it's fun to see the player succeed,
Mm-hmm. That's
but
what
it's
I'm all
also
about.
sometimes fun to see them like struggle too. You know, like we did. Oh, what's the name of that keeper? We all wound up dying except Dokul.
Oh, the ochre jelly. I
Yeah, the
think that was
jellies.
just a big learning experience, for new players, kind of like showing them, hey, this is D&D.
It's do or die. And the party composition that we originally had wasn't the best for that either. We did not have a wide variety set of tools. You know, like almost
Yeah.
everyone in the party just did physical damage, and
Yep.
then we had like a sorcerer.
Hmm.
You know, and then we had almost no healing ability.
Yeah. I mean, like the thought was there because I was trying to get everybody to realize, like, hey, there's roles. You're gonna want to fill a role, play the role. Um, I think that was kind of showing them what I meant, I guess.
Yeah, that was a very good learning opportunity from everyone. Because when we got together and we built the party, it's significantly better now. Like
Hmm.
I don't really think we have any like glaring weaknesses. There's some places that were maybe weaker than others, but not
Yeah,
glaring.
it's definitely stuff you can work around. Like the party now is amazing. Like I can actually like add stuff to every encounter to make it more challenging because I have to, which I think just
Right.
leads a lot more opportunities to push you guys in fun different ways.
Yeah,
Um,
you can create a lot bigger moments like that too.
yeah.
Much more epic fights, like where we're completely outnumbered and
Hmm. And gives you guys the satisfaction of like dealing with difficulty. Like you touched on that before. It's fun to have the players succeed. I completely agree with that. Like I'm I'm DMing, but I think a lot of people kind of get the wrong idea. Like people that aren't really used to D&D kind of get the wrong idea right away, where the DM is who you're playing against, and it's like, no, the DM's just the referee. We're literally here to try and provide you guys with the funnest experience because that's what's fun for us. Like we're players too. We want to have fun. I like
yeah.
planning all this stuff out and getting everything ready and presenting it in a way that, kind of gets you guys engaged. And then I want you guys to succeed, but I also want to challenge you because I think that is the way that we have fun. We like if you're able to kill like 50 different goblins and it's just one swipe every time, it'll be fun for a little bit, but over and over like that gets boring. If you're fighting
Yeah,
a bunch of goblins and then like a bugbear or whatever is like super freaking powerful and he's the leader and you're able to take him down after like he almost kills 3 of you. You know, like that shit's fun.
Right, it's a feeling of accomplishment that you get from that. You know, if we're just walking through every single fight, you know, like barely taking any damage, that like what we're just playing, you know, dice roller simulator at that point. You know,
Yeah, just dice roll simulator. Good analogy. Yeah. Um,
but as far as roles go, Malaggar being a rogue obviously fits the striker role, so he's the
mhm.
primary damage dealer for the party, and I think he suits that well. I built him a very high 2 hit um, stats, and so now going forward, I'm doing damage focused
Mhm.
from here on out.
Smart. Yeah, you definitely built him very well from level 1. And I know like Artful Dodger, for those that may not have been watching or not know, like I changed the Artful Dodger a little bit for Jacob just because he had a specific role, specific strategy he wanted to do, and I'm all game for that. You know, like I don't think you should be too constrained in your choices as a player as long as it's fair and it makes sense. So his Artful Dodge actually works differently than the 4th edition rules, which is every time he is missed by a melee attack or an AoE, he gets to dodge out of the way a number of squares equal to his charisma modifier. So it's kind of
And to,
similar to some of the elements of the rogue already there, but changed it a little bit.
right, and we had it. I can only do it once per round too, because that would be just busted. Honestly, if I could just
Yeah.
do that with every single miss.
Yeah. And then I think the only attack that doesn't proc that for you is just like a straight up ranged attack. Because like if you're dodging the arrow or bullet or whatever, you're already dodging. So,
Right.
but
Yeah.
I actually really like that ability because it makes a flow in the encounters that keeps things interesting, and we can keep moving around instead of getting stuck. Like this is that enemy front line, this is our front line, because there's a time and place for that, but like working in like two square corridors or whatever, that just doesn't work out.
No, it doesn't. And honestly, when I was talking about weaknesses in our party earlier, that's one thing we're not so strong in is we have only one tanky quote unquote character being a Dokul, and like the next best one would be Osagris.
He's
But
quite the
even then,
tank though.
but he's a great
He
tank.
is
Yes,
quite the
yeah,
fucking tank.
yeah. He is very hard to take down. And from here on out, apparently he's only building more Constitution. So
Apparently. I love a Dokul. Yeah.
Malaggar doesn't though. Like his whole like do good no matter what, you know, like be openly brazen about everything. It's the exact opposite of what
Okay.
Malaggar is accustomed to on every single level,
Okay.
and it's a big adjustment for him.
Yeah, you kind of just piece that together in my mind. Like coming from the Underdark, from a cutthroat world where you don't do anything without having a reason. Like that's probably absolutely foreign. So Malaggar probably just doesn't understand that. He might think Adokul
No,
is like hiding something,
I think
or
he's ridiculous. Or
you just think he's
Malaggar. I'm talking,
yeah,
talking Malaggar.
yeah.
Like I
Talking
think
in
he's absolutely
Malaggar, you think
ridiculous.
he's
Like
ridiculous. Okay,
like
that's interesting.
how do you even operate type of thing?
He's like, you know, you're gonna get yourself killed, right? Fucking
Yeah, it's exactly.
idiot.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. That's interesting. That'll be fun to play out sometime.
Well, I haven't really made it that obvious, but I've definitely like kept my distance from
Yeah.
Adoku. Like I don't even remember Malaggar like ever talking to him unless it was to try to like encourage him to do something that Malaggar thought
Okay.
was right.
Yeah, now that you say that, I'm kind of like remembering things. Like at the gates to Overlook when Adokul kind of just went out there and just brazenly wanted to come in and like, oh hey, I got this and everything. Malagar's probably like, shaking his head.
Yeah,
Okay, that makes sense.
incredulous basically, Adam.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like, I like talking to you about this stuff because you've been playing long enough that you kind of get the player character separation. And I know that's something I think we definitely have a problem with as a gaming group. Um, not being able to separate that quite right.
Well, and like I said earlier, this is everyone's like first campaign besides me. I think, like even you, this is your
Yeah,
first time DMing.
this is my first
Um,
time ever like actually doing a consistent game.
right, because I think we played like once or, well, not once or twice, but like a couple of times in high school. We played a little 4E, but it didn't really
Yeah,
go that far.
yeah. It's just hard because like back then I just remember like feeling like I never had enough, if you know what I mean. Like didn't have the right supplies, the right stuff
Oh
around.
yeah,
You know, it was kind of hard for me to get into because the whole time I was playing is like, oh shit, we need this. Oh shit, we got to do that. Oh shit, this. You know, like my
yeah,
mind
I
kind of
get
goes
it.
like that. I think that's probably why I like DMing because that's just how I naturally think. I'd love to play, but I don't know. This is fun. This is doing it for me so far.
Right. I'll be honest. Most of my D&D experience has been DMing, so
Okay, I actually didn't know that.
it's nice to play like consistently from the player's perspective.
Yeah, then you actually like get to hyper focus on one thing and not worry about all the other stuff. And
Exactly.
I'm still kind of trying to find ways to involve individual players in a little bit of the process because I know Adam said he would be willing to DM and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, well we can definitely keep that in mind, and then I don't know, like maybe one of these times he wants to do a one shot. I don't know how that's gonna work out, but
I'd be down to try it.
yeah,
I'm all for giving people experience. If they want to do it, let them do it. Give them a base to do it.
definitely. He might have to get a um, DM membership or whatever though.
Yeah. Fantasy Grounds is a pretty good medium to play through. Not gonna lie, this is my first time using it in this campaign.
I because there were two I was thinking of. It was either that Roll20, I think it's called, which is the browser
Yeah,
based, or this one, and I like this one so much more. I don't know. It it feels. How do I want to play it? Play it. It it feels like a tabletop to me. You know, it just kind of it's an application on a computer, but somehow it still kind of portrays that tabletop element. Whereas like Roll20, I know is like a very powerful tool, very popular, but like just watching it on the streams, I don't know, it just doesn't really do it for me like Fantasy Grounds does. I think Fantasy Grounds is awesome now that they have the Unity beta and everything, and they're able to get the line of sight. Like that's candy
yeah.
for me as a DM to play with that.
The shadowing from a player's perspective definitely adds a lot more depth to it. It's like what's around the next
Yeah,
corner,
yeah.
like as with the map when you were like revealing it before, we could still like kind of see what was
Mhm.
going on, but this is like I genuinely have no idea, you know.
Yeah, like as a player, you're seeing that, but you're like, okay, I see that as a player, but my character doesn't see it, and you kind of have to suspend that disbelief. Whereas because of the line of sight,
Yeah.
you actually
And
don't
not
see it.
metagame.
Yeah, and then I think it's a lot easier to see cover and everything like that too. Because if you're only seeing partial of an enemy, you're like, oh, he has cover.
Exactly. And if you don't see an enemy, well, it's like it's not middle square to middle square, so I can't hit them easy
Yeah,
enough.
yeah, it's fun. Plus, like Fantasy Grounds, like being able to automate so much is so helpful. I think, especially with new players, because as long as their character sheets are correct and accurate and proc everything, it's just, oh, you gotta press this button. And I think slowly over time, once they actually understand how their abilities work and everything, then they'll slowly learn, okay, so this role is this and this. So then if we ever do manage to get to actual tabletop, you know, that's kind of a long term plan of mine. Um, they'll have that experience rather than having to explain it all in person again. But yeah, automating everything, that's awesome because it speeds up combat. Instead of one combat taking an hour, it can probably take like 30 to 45 minutes.
Right. Yeah. Just you click one button, all the numbers are already added up already. Just we've had some issues trying to get it set
Mm-hmm.
up properly, because the numbers just turned out a little funky a few times.
Yep.
But once it's good, like it's smooth.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with yours. That was confusing because I think it was just all the little bit of updates that were going on. Somehow one patch was missing some key coding, and then the other patch fixed it. Because I remember there was one time where your damage was not enough and your attacks just weren't enough, so I had to manually add numbers and some of your features and feats to the powers tab so that they would be in effect on you in order for everything to add properly. And all of a sudden, the next time, all of your shit was just through the roof.
Yeah, skyrocketing. Like, why
Yeah.
do I have a plus 20 to hit? Like,
Yeah. So then I deleted those extra stuff I made, and then it was like back to normal. So I'm like, okay, how does this work? Because on your character sheets you have your powers tab, and then you also have your abilities tab, which is your feats and your class features and everything. And I'm wondering if everything on your feats and class features is supposed to automatically proc on your character sheet. I wonder if they have coding for that. And I'm thinking they do, or they're supposed to, but at this point I really haven't looked into it that much.
either way, we got it working now as of the last time we played. So
Yeah.
I think the only thing that was messed up a little bit was Viger. He was dealing damage twice over or something like that. I don't remember.
I don't remember that, but that could be. The only thing is like because it's so simplified, or it's automatic. It's almost so simplified that like it's really easy to mess up because there will be times that people forget to untarget or they forget to target and everything. And part of that I would say is the new players. Part of it is still learning the Fantasy Grounds engine. But yeah, it's a little annoying, a little frustrating, but we're getting through it.
Yeah, frustrating, but we all keep coming back. I think we're all having a lot of fun. You're doing a great job as a DM.
Thank you.
So
I'm definitely trying to put a lot of effort forth, trying to make it as engaging for you guys as possible. I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm too big on getting the engagement going. I guess it's just like I don't know. It's kind of draining for me from a personality standpoint because I'm not like oh let's go blah 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 super emotive, you know.
right, and you got to like play act so many different
Yeah.
roles. It can get exhausting.
Yeah, but I'm trying to like involve things to get us in the mood, like the music. I like playing the music for you guys because it's just that little bit of extra element that kind of keeps you in the game and realizing like, oh hey, yeah, this is D&D. But yeah,
And the sound effects, I personally enjoy them too.
good. I like doing that. I have them on my little laptop over here. Check out this setup. So I have my laptop
fancy.
that plays Sirenscape, and I can play all the different sounds and everything. And this is my mixer. So I actually bought a mixer. Oh shit, that's loud. You probably can't hear that.
No, all I hear is your voice.
There we go. I fixed it. I pressed one of the buttons. I didn't realize it would last so long. It was like a flood, so it was just. But yeah, so I bought a mixer, and eventually I kind of want to incorporate a little bit more, just because there's some stuff I haven't quite figured out how to differentiate the sound for the stream versus you guys, because I have this sound that's supposed to signify the stream starting, and I have it on my computer. All the sounds that you guys hear are on my laptop, and I can't get it to play on my laptop for some reason. But yeah, that's little technical stuff that I'm gonna figure out. Man, what were we talking about?
Well,
Yeah,
last
you're
time we were talking about party dynamics and like how Malaggar felt about the
okay.
Doku, and then we
Okay.
we kind of we kind of veered from there.
Yeah, a little bit of a tangent. Um,
Good tangent, but
yeah, I like this party. I think there's a lot of room for role playing these. There's a lot of potential for like really good storylines for all the individual characters. Um, the other guys, I would say, probably aren't as much into it, but you know they're new. They're not really used to fleshing out their own characters and everything. So I think we'll get there. If I'm able to like tie their backstories in a little bit, give them a little bit more engagement into their characters, I think that'll fix that. But
yeah, yeah, force them to have to do something, like
yeah, force them
because
into a
their
position.
pasts are confronting them. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm. But yeah, that's like I said, it's probably one of the funnest parts because you know what do all these powers mean? What's the point in going on any of these adventures other than get some golden experience? You know, if you don't have a backstory, so a way to tie you into the actual campaign arc.
right? What's your motivation? Malaggar's is pretty simple: survival.
Oh,
Like if he was just off into the wilderness on his lonesome, it'd just be this is Watson. It'd just be a matter of time, before something eventually would get him or the Drow caught up to him, and he doesn't want that.
yeah, and it's like I know there's a lot of similarities to Dritz with your characters, with your character, you know. But I
Yeah,
think there's a very key difference that is definitely worth talking about. Like whereas you know Dritz came to the surface and he wanted to like go to civilization and you know kind of find his place in the world almost. That's kind of what I got from the books. He wanted to find a place where he could be accepted and would fit in. So he's like people oriented. It kind of seems like Malaggar is more like cautious, just trying to figure out the world. I think it's a more um, worldview focused backstory. You know, he wants to figure out what is going on, like what is this out in the real world, and he's not really paying attention to like where he's gonna fit in. He's with a party that's accepting him, yes, but he's still very much in a like analytical frame of mind, and I find that very
exactly.
interesting.
Exactly. And with Dritz, it was his like choice to go out, like um, to explore the world. And yes, it was Malaggar's choice to leave the Underdark as well, but it was just out of necessity that he fell in with the party. And yeah, he's just a lot more hesitant about things. Malaggar's wearing a mask at all time to conceal himself. Like he's trying to fit in a way that is being unseen.
Okay. So you're you're kind of the similar mind as myself, where when you're making a character, um, you know, you're very into like every element of that character. You know, you have a great backstory. You're focusing on, you know, your character progression. You know, things to do with the role play, but just as much, you're like a min maxer. You want to figure out all the abilities. You want to have a strategy in mind for your character in how he functions in battle. Um, Tell me about that.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've found myself developing as a player a very long time ago. I'd like to find a very like niche role that a of any type of different character can find, and then just take that to the extreme as possible. Um, so like with Malaggar, it was doing damage and hitting as often as possible and being as mobile as possible. So to that effect, I took all the feats and all the powers that I could to maximize all of his potentials. Um, I made his dexterity the primary stat of all rogues, as high as I possibly could. And then, in order to do more damage with a at will power that he has called Sly Flourish, it adds his charisma modifier to all the damage that I do. So I made my charisma modifier as high as I possibly could with the ability points that I had in mind. But to that detriment, I sacrificed intelligence, I sacrificed wisdom, and I sacrificed strength. So, like, Malaggar can't carry very much. He has 60 pounds of, like, his normal adventuring gear on him.
Not a whole lot of
And
people in the party can carry a whole lot.
yes, our party is very strength weak. Like, I think the highest is 14, and that's
Yeah.
a Doko, I believe.
Anyway.
Yeah. But Malaggar's the weakest at 8, and so his carrying capacity max is 80. So if I just like pick up a leather set of armor, I'm there. I'm at the max, you know. But then along with that wisdom applies bonuses to a lot of the skills in the 4E skill set. So I had to rely on the rogue like training abilities in order to offset that. Because what's a rogue without being able to perceive things, like, you know, with perception and insight and whatnot? So I had to spend all of the training that I had in order to try to cover up some of those weaknesses.
Like your skill trains?
Yeah, the skill training.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And
Because like my bonus to my perception is 5,
yeah.
and that's just because I'm trained in it.
Yeah, I gotcha.
I'm sorry, I think it's 7 now that I'm level 2, because it adds half your level. But
and I think that's kind of how I go about things when I'm making a character too. I have like it doesn't matter like the class, because you know every class has its strengths and weaknesses and everything. But like if I pick a class, I'm thinking in my head, okay, what am I going to be trying to do with this class? And then I pick the powers appropriately to kind of to fill that niche, that very specific role that I want to have in combat. And then when you have a strategy for how you want to play your character, you know, it's a matter of just assigning numbers. So I think people can definitely take a lot from that conversation, where like don't worry too much about your ability scores across the board. You know, focus on what you want to do, what you're trying to do, put the scores in the right spots, and then, you know, do what you can afterwards. Because though on paper as a single PC, Malaggar would certainly have like glaring weaknesses in the party, because you guys paid attention to making a party. The other guys fill those roles. Like Morn is a freaking healing powerhouse, you know, and he's in addition he helps a lot with defense by putting his spirit ally companion, whatever that's called. He puts it in the right spot. Yeah. So then you get added defense.
Provides bonuses to the nearby allies.
Yeah, it's really fun watching you guys go through these encounters, because I would say like you have your end planned out, but I don't think the other guys really have combat planned out. They just like play the role the way that acting in this party has kind of shown them. So like, because you had a very specific way of going about combat, they kind of took after you and filled a role, and it works, you know. So like every combat is more or less a different version of the same thing, which works very well for you guys.
And a large part of balancing each other's weaknesses is the rest of the party has very little in the way of dexterity, but Malaggar it's the highest you can be at level 4. But then, like, along with dexterity, though, the rest of the party doesn't have trickery. They don't have stealth. They don't have any of those other dexterity.
And they all know that you are the one that has stealth. So every time stealth comes up, it's like, hey, Malaggar, go scout.
I always wind up being the scout. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, when I do have a stealth of plus 14 or 13, I believe. So even if I roll low, there's still a pretty decent chance I am above the enemy's passive.
Yeah. Actually, that made me think of another encounter that I really wish I would have done a little bit differently to make it more fun. Remember when you first got to the Monastery of the Sundered Chain and you
Yes.
defeated the orcs out in the courtyard, and then you peeked inside into the temple, and then you snuck inside, and then you did spot those two orcs up on the balcony. I wish I
Yeah.
would have done that a little bit differently. Because I think what we had was we had you do one flat stealth roll just to be hiding, and then you wanted to take them out silently. So then I had you do a stealth roll for the attack. I kind of wish
Right.
I would have done that in a more moment by moment progression, just to build up the suspense instead of just doing like the flat stuff. Because I feel like I feel like I kind of robbed you of that experience a little bit. Because
No.
you still got the stealth kills and everything, and that felt really good. But I think if we had paced it a little differently in a moment to moment, I think that would have built it up just that much more. Because like I try to watch other DM games and everything, and Matt Mercer is like a pro at this. You know, I mean,
Yes.
I don't want to compare
He,
myself to Matt Mercer, but I'm trying to like watch
he's
other
your
DMs.
inspiration.
Yeah, yeah. Like I remember watching him go through like a celebrity cast with the Tomb of Annihilation, and there was a part where they had to go across this trap, which was like a skinny bridge that had scythes coming back and forth, you
Oh,
know?
yeah, like Indiana Jones style
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. And they were going off the blades would go based on nearby living creatures breathing. So in order to stop the scythes, you had to stop breathing. You had to hold your breath. So
Oh.
yeah, it's a really interesting trap mechanic. But so basically, you had to like go across this bridge and hold your breath in increments to get across. Which, you know, it makes sense. Like, okay, so you'll start here, make a Constitution check to hold your breath. If you're successful, you get to go across. If you fail, then you get hit by a scythe. You know, like the mechanics are very black and white. It makes sense. But like what he
Right.
did was he was like, okay, so start going across the bridge. And then so one character would like, okay, I go forward, but I hold my breath. He's like, okay, roll a Constitution check. And then so the character would roll whatever successful, and then he's like, okay, so you get a little bit further, and then he would like start kind of explaining it or describing it. So you're walking across the bridge, no problem, but then all of a sudden, you know, you start feeling that shortness of breath. You take a silent prayer to your god, hoping for whatever, and then it starts kind of burning in your chest. You need to take a breath. Panic starts setting in. Roll another check. So then they roll another check, you know, and then a success or fail, whatever. And he's like, okay, so you're able to push down that burning sensation and make it even further and further. And now your eyes are starting to water from the breath. Your vision gets a little blurry from the shortness of oxygen going to your brain. And he's like explaining all this and describing all this while they're going across. And it's like it's
It
such
really sucks you in. Yeah.
yeah, it's such a simple, straightforward mechanic, but just building on that suspense makes it that much more. So like it almost feels like you did walk across that bridge, you know?
Right.
The only thing I'm afraid of with that is like we have limited time, and I don't want to stagnate the adventures where we only get through like one or two encounters. But honestly, I think if I can manage to get more description, no matter what, it's going to be a lot more fun. But that's something that
And
I
I would
definitely
agree.
want to work
But
on as a DM.
one thing I do want to watch out for, though, is when you have more roles like that, like beyond just the normal pass fail thing, that's more chances for the player to fail.
Yeah.
Um, so, there's got to be a little bit of a balancing act where, okay, so like the DC should be 25, but I want to role play this out more, and I want to make them do like 3 or 4 checks, so I, like lower the difficulty a little bit.
Gotcha.
Or if you do just want to make it that one pass, one fail, and you roll, and then just act it out for us,
Yeah,
and
because
then
like
like,
bringing back to the genesis of this little side note in in that entryway when you were sneaking around, like I'm thinking, you know, you do a stealth roll to make it in, so then you make it in. You know, that makes perfect sense. And then you're looking around, you see these two guys, and then you make that decision that I want to try to stealth kill them. So that, you know, you got to get up the stairs first without being noticed, and then once you're close enough behind them, you're gonna make an attack. And like in that instance, success or fail is, it's not negligible, but it just creates more of the immediate storyline. So like if you success, he has no idea you slit his throat and then he's dead. You know, super fucking
Absolutely.
cool. But if you fail, maybe he notices you right at the last minute, and you have to make another really quick roll to stifle him from yelling out. You know, because that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like I don't want these roles to be the pass fail. I want them to add to the story. So that's something that I definitely have to figure out.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely agree with that.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
like all I would be doing as the DM is saying, like, if you roll your stealth and you fail in that instance, then I would say, okay, so you make a small scuff sound and the orcs starts looking around. What do you do? You know, and then that
Exactly.
gives you the chance to like say, okay, right away I try to put my hand over his mouth while I slide my blade in between his spine. You know,
Right.
that's
But
that's pretty much what I would love as a player. So, but it's hard
yeah,
because
it's a lot more control than over the events, and honestly, that control turns into good role playing. Than other just you're spotted. Roll
yeah,
for initiative.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. Which that, I mean, there's a time and place for it, I would say, but in the interest of D&D, you know, really getting into the characters and everything, I think there's definitely a more engaging, more interesting way.
Right.
Um, I had something just go across my mind, but I forgot. It came and went just as fast.
Trains left the station.
Yeah, train has left the station. Um, So, what would Malaggar's thoughts be on like the rest of the members? I know you said that he doesn't think very highly of Adokul, but he's got kind of an unsaid bond with Morn. I would say probably
Yeah.
describes that.
Yeah. Of the five other members, I'd say he's the one that he relates to probably the most, or at least has had like a similar mindset with. Because Mormon is, also a bit of an outcast, being a shaman, when we're largely stuck to the cities. Um, but as far as the other members, like Harry, for example, the dwarf, uh, dwarves and drow elves have been fighting for centuries. So I think there's a lot of
I don't know if
racial.
Harry's even aware of that.
That's the thing. Like I tried to tell him, like
Yeah.
when he first found out that I was a drow, like, hey, your character hates me
Yeah, I
with a
think he wasn't.
burning passion.
I think he wasn't
And
understanding that. I think he thought you were talking about the other dwarves. I think he forgot he was a dwarf.
possibly, yeah. And like dwarves are like, I don't want to say they're racist, but they have like biases towards non dwarves.
Yeah,
Period. And especially elves and drow. So um, I was kind of hoping for maybe a little bit more roleplay, like him like actively avoiding me and me obviously avoiding him, stuff like that. But like I think as far as his character goes, he seems to be like a pretty true neutral like type of guy playing so far. So I think there could like an unlikely friendship could bond there, or could blossom there over time. But it would definitely have to overcome a massive wall
yeah,
first.
yeah. I'm like Guillermo is definitely very new, and I think his motivations for playing like as a player, not a character, as a player, is definitely different. It's definitely different than or I would say it's probably not so much the role play aspect. I gotta shut off my alarm. Which, you know, nothing wrong with that, I'm saying. But yeah, so I think he's just not really keyed in on the role play aspect. I think his mind is just kind of elsewhere. I think he's definitely going to have to be like forced into positions, like at the bar in Overlook where you guys slept at when you met the other adventuring party. Like
Yeah.
he was the only one talking, and it was kind of I wouldn't say a struggle, but it was kind of a very slow pacing just because he's not used to being in that space of mind. He was kind of just going through conversation, but not really exploring his own motivations or like getting into the story. So yeah, that him as a player, I think we'll get there somehow. I don't know. I have no idea how though. Yeah,
I,
he's a
I
fun
could
player.
definitely be more help with that. Honestly, I probably haven't done as good of a job as I should be doing trying to role play him properly. And I think the biggest thing for me is I usually like to do a voice with my given character, and I'm still kind of failing to come up with one for Malaggar. Like I wanted to do like sort of like a low like hissy type of one, but it just came out like I was speaking like parcel tongue when I like tried to listen to myself do it. It just sounded like just what are you
Yeah,
doing type of thing.
yeah.
So
Exploring voices kind of makes you feel like an idiot.
it does, it does.
But there's definitely a positive thing that comes out of it. Like I really wanted to like kind of get into that for you guys again to try and get you guys engaged and like um, think of it more as you're there rather than playing a game. Um,
Right. And
but
you've
at
done it. You've done a pretty darn good job. Like your dwarven is pretty uh, like
Scottish.
it's a classic trope to make dwarves have a Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Like and honestly, it's not a bad one to fall into because it's an easy one to mimic, and it does make it seem like really authentic. So
Yeah, I'm trying not to do every dwarf that they sound the same. But I mean, I'm not like a trained voice actor or anything. But yeah, like
no,
when I
and
was
no one should expect that of you either. Like
yeah,
you're not Matt Mercer. Matt Mercer
no.
is an amazing actor.
Hmm.
Like his impressions that he can make of characters is incredible,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
kind
something
of
to aspire to, not
yeah,
something to expect.
yeah. And like you heard of the Mercer effect in D and
Yes,
D?
yes, I have.
I
Yeah,
definitely think there's a point to that, but also it's like that's his type of D&D. That's not everybody else's type of D&D. Like his type of D&D is very much like a TV show. They're all actors playing the roles, so they're in
yeah,
tune with the story and like they have their little asides that they use to, flesh out their characters and get involved in the campaign story and everything. Like you're not a trained actor. You're not a voice actor. There's so many D&D games is just a way to like get together and fuck around with a group of friends, like bad jokes the whole fucking way.
right.
Yeah, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's
Yeah,
just how
every group is going to have a different dynamic like that too. And a large part of it does come from the DM, but like you replace one player out of any of us and throw in somebody else, we're going to have an entirely different,
yeah.
group dynamic. And
Yep.
every D&D group is like that.
Yeah. So there's I I think you're hitting it. There's a lot to be learned and you can aspire to like that type of D&D, but you have to take your own points away from it, which is like what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to watch a bunch of DMs. Like I'm watching DMs on Twitch, and some are much more into that cerebral, like planning out the campaign and everything, and some are more about like the presentation, storyline, and everything. And I'm trying to take a little bit away from everything I'm seeing, and there's a lot to Matt Mercer that I think is of immense value, but I don't want to be Matt Mercer. I want to find my own style of DMing, and like eventually, if we do this long enough, I'd like to be recognized for that.
Exactly. Bring your own personality to the table. Don't
Yeah.
try to emulate others.
But so like with the voices, like I wanted to, and I was like, okay, I gotta just do it. I gotta just do it. And I was like, I wasn't afraid, but like I was anxious when I first did it because you feel like an idiot. But now that
Yeah,
now that I've done it, it's like it's just kind of part of the game now, and I don't even think about it. It's just like instead of thinking, okay, what should I sound like? Are they gonna like this or whatever? It's like purely okay. How does this character sound? How do they see the party? How do they act? I've kind of gotten out of that little bit of performance anxiety, I guess I could say, which I
right.
think
Well, the
only
stage fright.
helps. But yeah, that's fun. We gotta see some other people besides dwarves pretty soon though. I think I'm
Yeah,
running. I
we're
think I'm
circling back
running
on
out of
pretty
my
soon.
Scottish ability to get different accents.
Yeah, I mean, you could always. Oh crap! What's his name? The dude from the 300. Um,
Oh,
Gerard Butler.
Gerard Butler. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I could just.
He's got a Scottish accent. You
I'll
can
I'll get I'll
probably.
get one of those voice button things where it has like a person's name that it sounds like, and you press the button and it says that thing.
Oh yeah, it's an emulator.
Yeah, just get one for Gerard Butler or like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Get to the chopper.
That could be pretty fun.
But yeah, and then like this is how I see Malaggar. Like if he would sound like he would be like a deeper voice, like sophisticated. Like he has a sophisticated enunciation of his words and like a deeper voice, quiet, like the whole like speak softly, carry a big stick kind of mentality. That's kind of
In
how
this
I
case,
see
a
him.
small sharp stick.
Yeah, small sharp stick. Speak softly, carry a small sharp stick that they won't see until it's too late.
Exactly.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Well, maybe next session I will commit to try to bringing a voice in, and I'll try to warn the other players too, just so they're not taken aback. But
Yeah,
that
we
does
can.
really help when you're trying to disconnect between, hey, this is Jake the player talking, and then this
Yeah,
is Malagar talking. It's easy to tell the difference.
yeah, and actually, that's another thing that I want to bring up for next session because I know I said it before, but I fell behind on it just because like I'm still getting used to everything that I'm trying to be aware of. But once we start, every time you talk, it's going to be in character. So like
Okay.
in in an encounter, you know how we usually have our little asides and everything. Like I'm gonna start not like to the degree that like black and white, no, you're in character, but like if it gets to be a little bit too much, there might be a little bit of a consequence to it, you know? So like
Uh, because yeah, if people need help with like fantasy grounds or the mechanics
yeah,
of D&D, then we can obviously talk normally. But
yeah.
otherwise, like try to stay completely in character if you can.
Yeah. So
I
like
agree with
if
that.
if you're having like a social encounter or whatever with some guy that you're trying to convince him of something and then like someone cracks a joke, I'm gonna try and treat that as if that character actually said that because
Right.
first it'll add to the situation, the role playing situation. Because like if you say a joke and then the guy like thinks you're racist or whatever, he might take offense to that, and then it'll take it in an unexpected direction, wanting nothing to do with the guy or like whatever. Or if you you start saying some stuff and then you know it'll close off an approach or it'll open up a different one. I think it'll add a lot to that. Also, um, like I know last time was hard because we took 2 weeks off again, and I think the next session is going to be really hard because we're taking another 2 weeks off. Just staying in story, like coming in and being ready to play and being focused on playing rather than attention's kind of being elsewhere. I think that was kind of an issue at big parts of the last session, like just staying on task. And I know it's hard because I got 6 people and you know one turn takes how long, so you're sitting there waiting, not really doing anything. Like I get it, but that's kind of why I want to drive the engagement and why I think specific character role play is going to help, because if you're role playing your character intensively, other people are going to want to pay attention, and if they don't pay attention, they're going to miss something.
right. And crap, I had two things I was going to say to that.
Don't you hate that?
The first one is, we do have a habit of starting late, and a lot of that is because we do kind of wind up having a social hour. Because I think we're all becoming friends, even though I've personally never met the other five. But like trying to stay more on task, like you said, is what I think would definitely help us. But I also want to say I think it's gotten a lot better. Like especially like our first two sessions, like one small combat took like 3 hours.
Oh God! Remember that ogre fight? That was
And
the
it just
whole
went on for
session.
forever. Like I was again being a more experienced player, I was like kind of timing it. Like I have to wait like 40 minutes between each of my turns. Like this is it. Like I know they're brand new, they're learning, and this is a new media, especially to play it in. So I knew it would get better, but just if they didn't get better, I was just thinking I'm going to struggle. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is going to be so bad.
Yeah.
But it did. We're moving along pretty smoothly now.
And I again, like, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to like control your guys and your guys' characters. But like I did speak in length to a lot of the guys just about like, hey, like when you're playing, try to have some semblance of a plan in place so that when it gets to your turn, you have something to do. You have something ready instead of trying to figure it out on the fly because you're not going to be able to. Like, especially 4th edition, there are so many chat boxes, texts, and everything. To try and figure out what you're going to do on your turn is just going to take forever.
Yeah, so trying to figure out what you're going to do in your next turn, you should definitely have like an idea, but don't plan the specifics until a majority of the turns have gone by, because the dynamics of the battle is always constantly changing. But like one thing I brought up when we first started playing is like wait for like I have a general idea of what you want to do, but then when it's the previous character or person or monster, whatever it is in the initiative order, when it's their turn, then start planning your specifics of like, okay, I want to move here. This is how many spaces I need to move. This is how I want to use my minor. This is how I want to use my standard, etc., etc.
Yeah. And like I love the character development in this specific regard because like the way I do it is I have all my powers that kind of work towards the bigger strategy. So I like to pick things that work in synchronicity. So like the leader has wolf pack tactics, and then the other ability, which one allows movement and then one allows an extra attack. So like that right there, just two powers, like that's almost all I need.
That's a lot of synergy right there.
And then the encounter and the daily I would pick for very specific situations that I want to use them for. So like the daily, there was a ring the bell or something like that, where if you hit you hit one creature with it, and then for the rest of the encounter, every time it's your turn, I think you get to shift one character.
Okay.
Something like that. So like my whole thing as a leader was like I need a rogue, like you. If I had you in my party, that would be fucking amazing because like we would do flanking maneuvers up the fucking ass. So I would put you in position. If you're already in position, I'll give you a free attack, and then if it's a boss fight, I'll do the daily very first fucking attack, and then the rest of the fight we just keep them exactly where we want them to. Like that's kind of how I do my abilities. So I usually have a lot of that stuff kind of planned out in advance. So then in every encounter, it's like, oh, this is a situation. This is what I'm doing. Whereas I think of like the other guys, they're still kind of trying to figure out exactly how they want to play their characters. Like Caleb, he has his Cloud of Daggers, which he just uses all the time.
That's actually a segue that I want to use into talking about how Malaggar thinks of Viger, and it's not very highly.
He had the chance to look so cool on the bridge, and he just fucking failed. And I was like, oh my god, I should have given him inspiration.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like again, where Malaggar comes from. If your not useful, and if you're not strong, you are weak and you are waste, right?
Gotcha.
And from Malagar's perspective, Vigor has not done very much in any of our combats. Like his cloud of daggers does some damage, right? But it doesn't really offer an actual a whole lot of control. And um, especially when you played his character when he was isolated, uh, it showed a lot of the potential of what a wizard can actually do if you actually start using your encounter powers and whatnot. And I think that kind of woke him up a little bit, and you see him starting to use them more. And so now he's starting to actually like be a more productive member
Yeah,
of the
he's
team.
kind of piecing it together in his head. Oh, I can use this for this situation that maybe he didn't think of before.
Right, but the damage is kind of already done at this point for Malaggar, where like I don't want to say it, but like he's dead weight to Malaggar.
Yeah, to
Like
Malaggar. Gotcha.
he's not taking any damage, you know, away from the rest of the party. He's not dealing very much. He's not actively controlling the enemy in his perspective. Like what like from Malaggar's perspective again, what is he bringing? Why is he here? Type
And
of thing.
Malaggar would probably have some experience with wizards too, because
Yes, sorcerers and wizards are very very common.
yeah,
In
so he has
Malaggar.
experience with like wizards and sorcerers and knows what they're capable of. So he probably
Yes,
thinks Malaggar is a bad wizard.
Beaker is a
Yeah,
bad wizard, but
or
yeah,
yeah, Vigor.
yeah, yeah, very bad wizard.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's just alluding again to like the difficulty of new players because this is so open ended. Like D&D, you can do anything, but that's also a problem in and of itself because it's like if there's no like set path for you to take, like what do you do? If you've never been
Right.
experienced to that before, it's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I'll just throw it out there. Um,
And to continue on the dynamic, like if Beaker is in trouble, Malaggar would not save him, right?
Mallory don't give a shit. He's like,
Because
you
he's
got
weak.
yourself in that situation.
Why would I save you weak? Like there have been a few times where like I've stepped in when things have been around like Beaker and tried to take him out. But again, that was just because it was the most opportune thing for Malaggar to do the most damage,
Okay.
and it was a way for me to present my strength to the party.
Yeah, and party's
Like,
acutely aware of your strength.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is like wizards aren't just combat too. Like there's a lot of stuff outside of combat that I think Caleb's just not aware of. Like using his arcana to find stuff out or in role play situations, wizards are very powerful in like skills and everything like that. And I think he's just not really aware of that. In all of his like cantrips, like he has light, he has other stuff that he's not using. I don't want
It's
to.
a single one. I don't think.
Yeah, I
If
don't
we
want to.
needed light, we've always brought to go to Sunrod.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, and like I don't want to beat him up for it. I don't want to beat the dead horse. It's just like maybe we should. Maybe I as DM should try giving him more opportunities to shine in that regard and kind of lead him to that and be like, hey, it's possible to do this. But again, like I don't know if I should say anything. I don't know if that would be proper because again, like I don't want to railroad you guys. I don't want to control your guys' character. I want Caleb to have control of his character. I just think he's kind of missing some of the highlights of the wizard that he just needs exposure to.
yeah, and I think a part of that is he's not spending like any time with his character other than in session.
No, he's
And
not. He is
and
not.
he oftentimes shows up to sessions pretty late too.
Yeah.
So he's like trying to play catch up, the whole time. So
Yeah.
that's again putting him at a disadvantage. Probably not his fault, but just it is what it is.
Yeah.
And so that combination of things just makes Vigor seem a much more lackluster of a character than he really, really could be.
Yeah. And like I'm thinking now I could even explain it to Caleb, like make that as part of your character description and part of his backstory. He gets stuck in his head, doesn't give a fuck about what's going on around him. He's just thinking about shit. Yeah, he can definitely role play
Make it your
that.
personality trope.
Yeah, make
Easily.
it yeah,
Yes.
make it part of his personality and then we're good. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, so like you alluded to the start time. That's always like the biggest fucking issue with me, because like I want a solid like 3 to 4, even 5 hours to play, because I think our best sessions have been the really long ones. Because
Like D&D, if it's like 3 hours or less, like the moment you start going, you already have to like find a place to stop or to wrap up.
yeah,
Like just D&D just takes time.
yep,
It takes time to tell the story.
yep, and it
And
takes us a while to get into it. So like
exactly.
three
So that
hours in, we're finally into it, and then all of a sudden we have to stop. Like I can't tell you how many times I was like, I felt like shit as a DM for stopping the session when we stopped because we had to, but I know like that's when you guys were like into it.
yeah, but we just got to find some better way to schedule time. So my like I messaged earlier, my work shift is changing. So now my evenings, your guys' time is opening up. So
Awesome.
that will no longer be a constraint.
Um, I'm still not 100% sure exactly what my schedule is going to look like because we're like just beginning the summer right now. So I don't know. Um, the last couple weeks, the plant has been having Thursdays off. So me and the other supervisor around my time have been switching off Thursdays and Saturdays, which is why I tried to have Thursday session. But now this week, we're back. Excuse me. We're back onto Wednesday, Saturdays, but I'm on this Wednesday, and we're producing. God, I keep hiccuping, but we're producing Wednesday, so I'm not able to play this Wednesday, but hopefully next
Okay.
Wednesday. It's really annoying, but we're
I
gonna have
was
to kind of play it
I'm
by
still
ear.
I'm still hoping out that we might be able to do a weekend thing because there's just a bigger window. I know you guys use that time to spend it with your families, but
Yeah, that as
it
long as I can get that figured out with Brianna, and I can figure out a time specific for me and her, it won't be a problem. But it's just so hard figuring that time out because she works 5 a.m. to like 3, 4 in the afternoon, so she doesn't
I was
have
just
any
gonna say,
time like
you mentioned
at
she works
all.
like kind of an offset shift from you too.
Yeah,
So it, like 12 hours of your guys' days is spent at work apart from each other, and then trying
mm-hmm.
to sleep in there too. You know,
Yep. So like we literally only have like 1 or 2 days every week to see each other. The rest of the time is like she's sleeping, I'm sleeping, she's going to work, I'm at work, and stuff like that. It's
yeah, it's rough.
difficult, but I don't know. We'll figure this out. I don't want to stop. I'm having fun.
No, me too.
I know
I really,
I also kind of I'm really glad I started this. Like really fucking glad. Cuz this fills all my like social needs, to be honest.
yeah, especially with all the COVID shit going
Yeah.
on.
And
And I do really want to thank you for reaching out and inviting me to this too. I was rather surprised, but pleasantly so.
yeah, I it's one of those things where it's like always in the back of my mind. I'm always like trying to plan this stuff out, but I never really start anything because I don't see a proper avenue to. But then this time I'm like, no, I don't play a whole lot of video games. I don't do a whole lot of all this and that. Like one day I was just looking for possibilities of like online D&D. I was just like, I wonder what's out there. I remember there was something I tried not that long ago, whatever, and then I found Roll20 and I found Fantasy Grounds. I'm like, holy shit, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for. So I'm like,
I'm
boom.
gonna do it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it.
I already
Yeah.
had the plan in the back of my head. I'm like, all right, this is fucking what I've been waiting for. Gonna do it. So I asked a bunch of people, and then yeah, and I've always wanted to play D&D with you because I know you love D&D and I know you know what you're doing. Just never really had a proper way to do it before because we never really had a group or anything. But yeah, so I thought of you like right away, and I'm glad you were able to join in and help.
Oh, absolutely. And like it's been super fun for me too. I don't have a D&D group right now, so this fits my social needs as well. And I do fits.
Yeah, I can't do bars anymore. It's like, what do? You just fucking sit there and drink. I can do that at home. You want to play
And
beer
it's
pong? You want to play cards? Let's do that. But nobody wants to do that at a bar.
yeah, and it's
Yeah.
freaking expensive too. Like,
I
it's just,
remember.
yeah, like just drinking your money away, really.
Yep. I remember in college, we used to go to this bar called D Pub, Distillery Pub, and it had like dollar mugs after a certain time every night. And
Oh,
they
there you
sold
go.
and they sold hoagies. They would cook hoagies basically until bar closed, and they were good too. Like, yeah, you think bar food. I mean, it was definitely bar food, but it was a really good fucking hoagie.
It was good bar food.
Yeah. So they had the rack, just like 100 or so different beers that you could just pick from, and they were all $1. I don't know how the hell they made any money, but yeah, we would go there all the fucking time. Just, hey, you want to go to D-Pub? Yeah. And then, so like we take cherry bomb shots and everything, playing dice the whole fucking time. Tip well because you can. I remember one night going to D-Pub with my friends. I got, blackout. Woke up the next day with a receipt in my pocket for like $50. I was like, how the fuck did I spend $50 at D-Pub? Because I don't remember buying like a whole bunch of shots. I don't know how the fuck that happened, but $50 at D-Pub was dollar
was
mugs.
that 50 mugs?
I don't know what the fuck happened. Like, obviously I drank a lot, but there's no way I drank 50 fucking beers.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But yeah. So you say the timer. That's another thing I've been wondering if that would be beneficial to use as a group for combat encounters to have a timer, because I know Fantasy Grounds Classic has a mod that you can add a timer, so that every time you hit the next actor on the combat tracker, it starts a timer. And I know you can do that on Classic.
I don't think we need a timer on the guys. They're usually pretty on the ball. It's just like we were talking about earlier. It's just getting to know their characters more, and just to know like what they want to do in the next round.
Yeah, because I was wondering if...
Sorry, go ahead.
I was wondering if that would be beneficial or actually take away, because a timer would help combat stay on task, but at the same time, it's like when it's your turn, you're paying attention to the timer. You're not paying attention to what's going on.
I think it might help or hurt more than it would help, personally. But I don't know how the rest would feel.
Okay. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So... last session ended off very interestingly.
It did.
Yeah.
It did.
An errant missile missed completely its target and ended up hitting you. Osiris sent one of his radiant bolts of energy and it actually ended up hitting you because he critically failed his roll.
Yeah. Square in the back.
So... tell me about that. What does Malaggar think about that?
So, to begin with, Osiris is definitely a weird one for Malaggar, being a diva. Has no, understanding, really, of that race or what it's about. So he's just kind of like a foreign object, almost, to him. Especially being an Avenger. He's obviously extremely pious to his deity. And Malaggar isn't. He just tore away from religion and from Loth. So he already had a kind of an offset feeling towards him, similar to like a Doku, where he's just like some foreign object that he doesn't quite understand yet. But then on top of that, Malaggar also did Osiris has proven himself extremely useful in combat, so he's strong. Malaggar knows that, and he knows that he can be a good ally. Again, using that working to his own advantage mindset still.
Gotcha.
And so he saved, so he saved him.
Other people's strengths work towards Malaggar's advantage, so that's why he bonds with them. Okay.
Yes. Yep. And that's why he saved him from the burning. The foundry underneath the monastery.
Okay.
And when it was the next day that we got into the vents and went underground, and he got shot in the back by him after just saving his life.
You
Like
motherfucker.
exactly, like it is a literal stab in the back to Malaggar.
And Malaggar probably knows all about that because like that's how it happens in the Underdark. You save somebody, you show weakness, and then all of a sudden they take over you, and then they become stronger.
Exactly, and
Oh,
especially when they're in the middle of combat, and and Malaggar was not surrounded, but like there was 2 or 3 other enemies like still like there,
yeah, he probably thinks it was intentional.
shooting him, and then the people who thought that he could get to like work for him stabbed him in the
Okay,
back. Definitely strung all of the wrong chords with him.
okay, that makes sense now. Because like I know you were saying, we were kind of talking a little bit in whispers in the game session. I was like, okay, so I kind of understand from a very basic standpoint. Like Malaggar gets hit by friendly fire, so naturally, because he's a drow, he's gonna want to like see what's going on there. He's gonna be aggravated. But I didn't know all that was going on. I love that. I love that. I wonder what Khan. I wonder what's gonna happen with Khan. I know. Very at the very end of the session, Khan was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna do this and this and this and everything." And I'm just like, I don't think you realize what's going on, man.
No, it like in a 1v1, there isn't another party or person in the party that could match Malaggar.
I agree.
Like
Osiris fills a very interesting role as a damage dealer. I think Khan's playing his guy a lot like yours. If whether that's intentional or not, he's a very smart guy, so I think he knows what he's doing. But at the same time, it's like, okay, is this kind of planned out like this? Because he has that ranged attack that gives him temporary hit points, and then he has that basic guaranteed hit with his feature. And then I also worked out
twice.
yeah, I also worked out a little special ability for him which the reason why I did it is because I wanted him to be able to play the class in that special niche, which he has to pursue an enemy. So he has to get close to the enemy. And then I think, an Avenger is like a singular pursuit. He has intense focus on one enemy. I'm going to kill that fucker no matter what the hell happens, and it's like a religious zealot, charging forth without giving any care for any danger that's around. His only focus is to kill
target, killing that one thing.
So I wanted to give him the ability to do that, where once he actually swears an oath, any other enemy besides his oath target, if they make an attack against him, they get a negative penalty to their damage roll. And it's like his religious order, his divine favor with his chosen deity, that's them kind of shielding him in that regards, because he is sworn to kill his deity's enemies. So that the deity's like, yes, I want that, so I'm going to make sure that you can pursue that without fear of danger. So I gave him that. So he has a very interesting way to do combat, where he'll toss out his shit to get temporary hit points so that he has survivability, and then he's going to say, yeah, I'm going to kill that guy, and then he can literally just like walk forth and not give a fuck about what's going on, because he'll take less damage from other enemies. So therefore he can be the guy that just like goes to random fucking targets, like not part of the party at all, which kind of lessens the group danger towards the rest of the party, because he's off on his own, like doing his berserker thing.
Taking a decent amount of aggro.
Yeah, I really like his character. I kind of wish he could clue in on that a little bit more, so that he would just like charge forth to some random dude, almost be like it's 5 player characters and then Osiris on the side killing some other guy. I think that'd be funny. But yeah, so he's got a very interesting character. But yeah, like straight out damage, no. You would definitely take him.
Well, and that's what it comes down to, duels. I think right now he definitely has an advantage. If it does come to PvP, I hope it doesn't. But because I think I'm bloodied. I think I'm just below half health, mostly because of that backstab I got. I mean, I think he's almost full. So um, if it did come down to PvP, I would definitely have to go first in order to get a chance,
Yeah.
basically.
And like I think I will definitely like make a DM's note at the beginning of next session like, hey, remember there's role play. It's not all
Yes.
just combat,
And
there's also role play.
yeah, and Malaggar is trying to put himself in a position of strength against Osiris when he's confronting him by having the blade like
Yeah.
out ready at his throat.
So it's
Uh,
like from Malagar's point of view, it's not like he did this, so I'm gonna kill him. It's more you want to show you are the power of the
yes, and
party.
I'm not
You're
to be trifled with.
yeah, you
Yeah.
are the powerful one in the party. Everybody else
Yes.
is beneath you in a way. Or
I won't say beneath, but like useful to me.
okay, yeah. So like you're like the background leader. You're not like the outspoken leader that's going to talk with everybody, but you are the power behind everything. Almost.
Right,
Okay.
right. And from Malagar's perspective, Osiris, whether accidental or not, tried to undermine that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So he did it in front of everybody. Everybody saw. And if you don't do anything, that shows your weakness. That's kind of what Malagar is thinking.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I love that. I love that. That's going to be interesting as fuck to roleplay if we can. Hopefully, we can roleplay it. I hope to God we can roleplay that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think I might have gave the wrong impression to Con. I don't know if he's going to watch this or not, but like,
I'll
what
put it in
like,
the Discord
because I
chat.
said is like I'm lunging at him with the daggers, singing through the air, or whatever. He's probably thinking that like I'm just immediately going to try to strike him.
Yep. Plus,
But
it's a little later in the session, so usually we've been in our mugs just a little bit. So.
yeah,
But yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. I think that's a lot of potential, especially like where you are right now in the campaign. Because yeah, you're the Tavern League, like you're banded together, but you're not really well known. You're still figuring each other out, like if this
right.
is a real thing or if you're just together by happenstance. And I will say, throughout the campaign, anything can happen. Like we know that, but I really want to make that a point. So like if something happens and the party disbands, that doesn't mean like your character is dead and you got to make a new character. Like I
They're still
am
out there. Yeah.
it's a 6-person party made for a 5-person adventure. It is entirely possible for me to level things for 4 people. If things split up or diverge, like that's perfectly workable from my standpoint as a DM. So like if you become like not an enemy, but like what do I want to say?
Disassociated with the party.
Yeah, if you become disassociated from the party, like competition, if you become like a competition or like there's a specific word I can't think of it. Rival. If you become like a
Right.
rival to the party, I am perfectly fucking wanting to go with that. So no matter how this ends up is how it's going to end up, and I think we're going to be able to work with that regardless.
Right, and I do have backup characters if necessary as well.
I don't think you will. If we can manage to talk to the guys and just be like, "Hey, so like without trying to control the outcome, just letting them know like, "Hey, this I want to role play. I don't necessarily want this to become a combat encounter, but if you choose to do that from your character's perspective, if you just don't want to, if you're like, hey, fuck this guy and you want to fight, that's all the power to you. I'm just letting you know there is the option, there is the avenue to take this completely into role play and explore that.
Yes, and as a player, I really do not like doing straight up PvP. If it's like a drunken like bar duel, fine, but like actively trying to kill each other's characters
Yeah,
is not productive.
yeah,
Conflict is good, but I find it a lot more interesting to try to resolve it
yeah.
instead of
Conflict between the characters is fine, but killing each other's characters, it doesn't really do anything for the story unless it makes sense from a roleplay perspective. But it doesn't do anything for the story. It just breeds resentment. Like, hey, dude, you killed my character. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. And like the only way that I could see that like happening for Malaggar is if for some reason he went back to his roots of like, no, like, fuck everyone.
Yes.
I'm out for myself.
So this could be like a huge climax point for Malaggar too.
Right. And that's the thing is, when I started building out this character, like he broke away from everything he ever knew, religion, his entire environment, his language. Like no one speaks Drow on the surface. Like, so he's it. I hate to sound super cliche, but it's really like a story of like redemption, trying to find himself, find like something to believe in again.
Yeah, something completely foreign to anything he's ever known.
Yep.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming on and talking to me about this. This was very fun. It's already like almost 2 hours in.
Yeah, we talked for over an hour and a half.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm very excited, very happy that we did this. Learned a lot. Definitely take a lot of points as a DM. I really want to like dive into your characters more and like flesh these out and really kind of try and make your guys human, in a sense. You know, that's something that I definitely want to focus on as a DM. I think that'll liven up our sessions more than anything else, because like combat's fun. Combat's always going to be fun. There's always, you know, new things you can try as characters and fight different enemies, and that'll always be interesting. But I think
there's more to D&D than just combat.
Yes, and I think if the other guys can get into their characters a little bit more, I think it's just going to be so much more fun for them too. But yeah, again, thank you so much for joining. It was great to have you, Jacob.
Same here. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for waking up early.
The next session, until we can meet again. Hopefully next week. I don't know. I traded with my other supervisor this week so that I can be on the same schedule as you, like we talked about before. So now that you changed your schedule, it's like, whatever. But yeah, I should be off next week, Wednesday. Hopefully we can play. I'm really excited to explore that.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it too, especially with such a cliffhanger that we ended on.
All right. I will see you later, Jacob. Malaggar Lonewalker.
Later.